Hello and welcome to the iChiefs podcast series, brought to you by the International Association of Fire Chiefs. This is where new ideas are born, leadership skills are discussed, and engaging topics are brought to the table. I'm Tom Jenkins, Fire Chief of the City of Rogers, Arkansas, and a past IAFC President.
And I'm Joe Powers, the Managing Director of IAFC's consulting firm, Emergency Services Consulting International. We're glad you're here. This podcast is designed for you and for the fire and emergency services community.
Before we dig into this week's important topic, make sure to check out our library of episodes at iafc.org/podcasts and listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you think the content is great, go ahead and share it with your crew. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of our listeners out there as we gather together for another iChiefs podcast. This time, we have a very familiar face joining us today, Fire Chief John Butler, who has been kind enough to not only simultaneously lead the Fairfax County, Virginia Fire Rescue Department, but is also serving as the president and chairman of the board for the International Association of Fire Chiefs this year, ending his term at FRI next summer. So he is being baptized by fire, but John is, as I mentioned, a familiar face, somebody who was a co-chair of the IDELP, the International Diversity Executive Leadership Program within the IAFC, a former fire chief in Howard County, Maryland, and I think most importantly, I think Joe would agree with me, just an all-around great human being. John, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. It's great being here, Tom. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
When Joe and I were discussing who we wanted to have on, it was easy to think we've got to get Chief Butler on here and visit with him. Now, I feel like I know you very well, but I think there's a lot of people that outside of what's posted on your bio and listening to you speak, they don't know a lot about John Butler the person, John Butler the fire chief. Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you're at today. Your tenure there in Fairfax now is not new. You've been there for some number of years. Tell us all about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. It was at FRI, this recent FRI, that someone told me, so you're getting sworn in tomorrow, installed tomorrow. I don't know a lot about you. And it's funny, you live with yourself. We all live with ourselves and we know a lot about ourselves, but it was not offensive. I didn't see it offensive at all. It was a reality that, like you just said, Tom, those who know me well enough, and those who don't, I'm still, somewhat of an unknown out there in the big picture, which is not unusual for me. I believe I'm a kind of a laid back guy, not a pretty loud and flamboyant person in the room, in the proverbial room. So let me talk a little bit about who I am. I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen. I'm a foreign-born person. I wasn't born here. I was born in a small country in Africa called Liberia, size of Tennessee, from what I understand. If you're comparing it, small. But so I left as a preteen, as a 12-year-old with my family. We were escaping civil war, and it was bad and ugly, and we left under austere conditions with what was on our backs pretty much. Got on the last Pan Am flight out of the country before things went sideways, and landed in New York City, and then life went on. My parents bought a home in Maryland, in Columbia, Maryland, where one of the first places, actually the first place we stopped, was a firehouse. My dad needed directions to this new house. It was before, obviously, computers and all of that, where you literally still had to pull over and ask people for directions. So in this U-Haul, we pulled up to a firehouse. My dad said, "Well, boys, get out and go use the bathroom while we're here." Well, funny, that firehouse turned out to be the firehouse I would become the fire chief of, and a recruit there, and a battalion chief there, and a paramedic there. Years later, before I even knew what a fire engine was, I had literally stepped foot in the parking lot of a place I would grow up, pretty much. Anyways, speaking of growing up, I spent my first formative years right after high school in the Marines. I was an infantry Marine. I ended up in combat quite a bit, more than the average bear, if you will. In '89, I was in Panama. '90 and '91, I was in Iraq and the Persian Gulf. Had my fair share of combat on the front lines. And after that, I decided, well, maybe there's some other things I could do in community and continue to protect the vulnerable, help society, and pretty much the old saying, send me. I was still in the spirit of send me, and ended up in the fire service and climbed up the ranks, the first, and I know the only fire chief in Howard County, Maryland, to have gone from the so-called the streets to the fire chief position, holding every rank, every position in the department over that 25 years. Then came an opportunity to be the fire chief in Fairfax, Virginia. I couldn't turn that down when the opportunity came up. It was a great department. Coming up in the old days, most people wanted to know what was Fairfax doing and what Phoenix was doing. Fairfax and Phoenix. They were the progressive organizations in the fire service. And I wanted to see Fairfax County get back to that prestige. They already had it. They always did. I thought my leadership style kind of like just amplified a little bit. I'm incredibly proud of that organization now and its members. They're kicking butt, as far as I'm concerned, doing some really strong things. Every department can improve, but the one I'm leading right now, they make me look good. So that's happening. During the pandemic, or shortly before the pandemic, I thought, because my home department is doing so well, I can take my show on the road. I believe I have a strong cadre of chief officers. Let me throw my name in the hat to run for a position with our International Association of Fire Chiefs. Well, I did, and I got the gift of being selected by acclamation to be the second vice president. And then now, 3 years later, I'm the president, the 147th president of the International Association. I'm really proud and honored to do that, with 150 year, which we're actually celebrating as we speak. Actual date is October 20th. And I'll be with Southwest Division in Baton Rouge when that happens, October 20th of 2023. So sometimes I look back and it's surreal, like how did this immigrant little guy end up, being the president of one of the oldest associations in the United States, the only one that represents chief officers and fire chiefs, one of the oldest, like I said. In his 150th year, this little guy wasn't supposed, well, I shouldn't say wasn't supposed to be here, but it's amazing that I'm here at this moment. And it's a privilege. It's a privilege to lead both locally and internationally. So I'll stop there. Those are some of the things I'd like our members and the community and all listeners and viewers to know about me. There's a ton more, but we'll stop there.
So that's a really great story, and I appreciate you sharing it because as a fellow East Coaster, we've known each other in passing for several years, and
yes.
And coming into the IAFC and coming into my position with ESCI, I was excited to see that we were going to be able to work a little bit more closely together. But I learned a lot about you at FRI, and listening to you speak and people talking to you. I learned a lot about you today, so that's super exciting. Taking that background and moving it into the IAFC, an organization that is hitting its 150th anniversary. You're looking at things around having healthy organizational cultures and inclusive leadership. How are you going to take that background that you have and putting it into your initiatives moving forward with the IFC?
Well, you hit on a couple of key words. And first I'll say, I think if I could describe myself, I'm built for collaboration and teamwork. I think I do that well, always have, and kind of recruiting people to come along for the journey, and by establishing a vision. So, anyways, you used a couple of words that I've been using as my refrain in the last 5 weeks, and that's moving forward. Moving forward. That is the spirit that I've shared with our board. There's a lot of reasons there. I could name you tons of reasons for us to look in the rearview mirror. But you know what? I'll do for 12 months? I'll be doing just that. I'll be spending a whole lot of time relitigating other presidents, other past experiences. Moving is our action. Forward is our direction. Those two words have to be together, because you can move. You can move sideways. You can move backwards. So move is not that's not where the period to the sentence ends. The rest of it is forward. It's forward movement. So, spending a lot of time focusing on that is what I want to do this year. We have a strategic plan. We have a strategic initiative plan already established. We put 68 people in a room and decided, where are we going to take the association? It's not a John Butler show. I'm just happen to be the maestro of this band. But 68 people came up with 19 initiatives. Between 2023 and 2026, we're gonna rock. We're gonna work the plan. Many others come with specific visions, and I have my own. But we're going to focus the association on moving forward with the plan that we put those folks in the room and selected them to come up with that strategic plan.
Speaking of strategic plans, you use some words that I like, and I think they do legitimately describe you. You said you're collaborative, and you are somebody that, you're very self-made, and you are a humble, if there is a humble civil servant out there, it is you. Right now in the fire service, what I notice is that we've got some synergy going on. We have a lot of good. The NFFF does wonderful things, and of course, I think the Chiefs and the IAFF. Everybody is always trying to move the needle in their respective theaters of operation. But we've got this one voice thing going on right now, and I'm curious your thoughts about is that just a Tom Jenkins opinion that we're working together better with all the various agencies that represent fire and emergency service stakeholder groups? Or is that reality? Are you seeing that? What's your vision there, John?
Oh, great question. I've been watching I was an early adapter, and like many of us, with Dr. Lori Moore Merrill's One Voice Fire Service, One Voice movement. And there are many, not just Dr. Lori Moore Merrill, there are many of us, the big tent us, that got together, during the Summit on Fire Prevention and Control Conference summit that was held at the National Fire Academy last October 2022. So we all, like many of us, got together, and this hasn't happened since 1947, when President Truman Conference on fire prevention and control occurred and launched the America Burning report. So you're right about synergy, momentum, trajectory, all of those moving forward under some of the leadership of the U.S. Fire Administrator. The IAFC has a seat at the table, the NVFC, IAFF, and I'm sure I'm going to forget others. Those are a number of the, NFPA. There are a number of big players there, which that's how we have to operate. The fire service, one voice. It's amazing in our own little niches, and I'm not going to use the S word. Well, I'll use it because I just said it. Silos. In our silos, we are saying some of the same things. We're focusing on some of the same things. We go up to Capitol Hill and we pass each other in the hallways of the Rayburn building, or the Dirksen building, and it's, oh, look, that's my other friend in the Class A's going to speak to the same senator I just got done speaking to with the same hot sheet. So getting together and clearing up our message for a national fire service strategy is something I'm all in, and many of us, we all are. I don't know anyone who's finding that the fire service one voice movement is a unnecessary effort. I think we're doing well with that.
So, Chief, you do a fair amount of traveling as the IAFC president, and I know that you're at the First Net conference in Vegas right now, and I think that you just left my hometown of Anchorage, Alaska. So that's exciting. I hope they were nice to you up there. I would like to hear a little bit about Fairfax County and the great things that Fairfax is doing, and you're obviously being pulled away a lot. And you've got a great team up there. Talk to us a little bit about the great Fairfax County.
Sure. So one of my favorite subjects, and that's to talk about Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department, its members. Like I said earlier, I inherited a department that was just awesome. They were awesome in their own way, and I had some scratches and dents, and there was some things that we needed to tighten up on. And that's where I thought I would come in, that I could come in and contribute kind of leadership from the front in that regard. In short order, I found I had a council of great leaders in the organization. Some things we're working on now that I'm incredibly proud of, and it actually transcends into my international role, is early detection, cancer, or early detection, early awareness, treatment, aligning with research and specialty facilities that are addressing cancer, occupational exposure to hazards that create cancer, forever chemicals, and all the things that we are exposed to as responders. And Fairfax is attempting to lead the way. We have one of a few, if not the first, joint wellness center, as in behavioral health. We tried not to call it behavioral health center or whatever. We call it a joint wellness center, just to kind of knock down on some of the stigma that goes with post-traumatic growth. We're also changing language, like I just said, from post-traumatic stress or post-traumatic stress disorder to post-traumatic growth, something I hold personally close to, because I was diagnosed PTSD like way long time ago, probably before my fire service. I've been diagnosed. I've seen people. I know my triggers. So when the leader of the organization says this is real and we need to focus on it and learn how to grow with post-traumatic stress, the organization quickly in short order got on board and continued to lead the way there. And like I mentioned already, early detection. I mean, in this year, 2023, we probably close to 700-800 members of our responder family in the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department went through some ultrasound scanning, and we found over 40 actionable findings. I'm stopping short of saying we found 40 cancers. We found a number of cancers, new findings. We found a number of other things that needed action from a medical specialist. And these people are able to go back to their families and cut down on anxiety and get back to work as well. So I've talked about mental health. I've talked about cancer, and also our cardiovascular and our fitness programs, things that I'm really proud of. We have a registered dietitian, physical therapist. The registered dietitian goes into firehouses and helps them make healthier meals. So it's all-inclusive, comprehensive approach to wellness, total wellness, and resiliency. That's my soapbox for Fairfax County. They still put out fires really well, like many fire departments do. But there's a lot other things, and EMS, of course. But there are a lot of other things we need to do and focus on the responders. Especially, I speak to every recruit class, and you look at these young men and women, and they're getting younger, and then oh my gosh, they're babies, and therefore we have this huge responsibility to make their fire service experience better than the ones we had. Better equipment, limit their exposure to the carcinogens, just change how we do fire and rescue work.
All right, John, one final question. Maybe the most challenging and important question of the entire podcast is, I'm looking at you, you got your sports jacket on, right? You got your 150-year pin.
Yes.
Joe and I
Yes.
are peppering you with all this stuff about the IAFC and Fairfax County and who you are. And I want to know, you have just, I don't know, what is it, 10 months left in your
Yes.
time. You're juggling a full-time mortgage paying job. You're doing this other presidential thing that is every bit as challenging. When this is all said and done, and when you're back at home in Fairfax County, what does John Butler do for fun and to relax? Tell us about you as a human when this is all said and done.
That's, of all the questions that we've touched on, that is probably the one that gives me pause, because I'm like, oh wait, what do I do when all those other things are not happening? And the immediate answer, with all kidding aside, I've got 2 great grandkids. I spend time with my family. I'm fortunate to have them all within an hour of where I live. 2 young grandkids, Sophia, who's 4, and Jackson, who's 2, and I get to spend a lot of time with them. That's my go-to, and with a little rest and some PT, I'm good and ready to get back in it. Not much left there for too many hobbies, but certainly spending time with the family is where I get my energy.
Well, knowing you as well as I do, I had very little doubt that was going to be your response. Chief Butler, thank you so much for not just being a good friend, but for being a colleague that was kind enough to join the gauntlet with Joe and I today. We've enjoyed visiting with you, and I'll echo what Joe said earlier, that every time I talk to you and I have some measurable amount of time to do it, I learn something new about you, and I admire that. That says a lot about you as a humble public servant. You have a lot to brag about, a lot to be proud of, and you have to fish it out of you. That's not true with everybody in our business. So I wish I was more like that. With all these podcasts, I have to come to an end. So thank you for joining us as a guest today. We are celebrating our 150 years as a fire chief organization,
Yes.
and we have a lot of good stuff going on. I appreciate what you're doing to amplify the message for our association, for our business. To all of our listeners out there, I hope you've enjoyed getting to know our president of the International Association of Fire Chiefs, John Butler. Follow Fairfax Fire and Rescue, see what good things he's doing on the home front, and of course, a multitude of things that he's juggling for our association. For all you that are listening to us today, we encourage you to subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to us today. And if you like what you hear, then please leave us a rating and review the content. Most importantly, share it with colleagues. We're doing this to make sure that our business is well informed. There's 1.2 million firefighters out there just in the U.S., and so we consider our wins one by one. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you learned something and enjoyed visiting with Chief Butler. Be safe out there, and we'll talk again soon.